up to you. Sometimes you
Exactly.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This session of the Planning Board meeting is now in order. Got the roll call?
Mr. Shera?
Here.
Mr. Brody?
Here.
Dr. DiBenedetto?
Here.
Mr. Duffy?
Here.
Mr. Good? Absent. Ms. Close? Absent. Mr. Levy?
Here.
Mr. Ciano is absent. Mr. Weinstein?
Here.
And Chairman Barilli.
Here. Salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the notice requirements of the Ocean Public Meeting Law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice having been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed in the office of the Township Clerk on July 25th, 2017. There is an emergency exit through the courtroom doors and 2 exits at the rear of the room. We have a no smoking policy, and we also have a policy that no new cases will be started after 10:30 p.m. and no new testimony taken after 11 p.m. In addition, the applicant is limited to 1 hour of testimony. All meetings will be video and audio taped and shown on the Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablevision. All cell phones must be turned off, or if you need to make a call, please make your call outside of the meeting room. First, we have a case carry to January 22nd, 2018. That's titled 58 Monmouth Road, LLC, Block 26.04, Lot 2, 58 Monmouth Road, Oakhurst.
Mr. Chairman, that matter was properly advertised, and so it can be adjourned without additional notice to the date set forth on the agenda calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next, we have the minutes for approval from September 25th, 2017, a regular meeting. Will somebody give me a motion to approve?
I'll offer.
Second?
Second.
Who offered that? I'm sorry. I'm not used to being on this side. Who seconded it? Dr. DiBenedetto?
I second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Shera?
Yes.
Mr. Brody?
Yes.
Dr. DiBenedetto?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
And Mr. Weinstein.
Yes.
Okay, next we have resolution and memorializations. The first one would be Barry D. Elbaum, Block 208, Lot 4, 1125 Route 35, Ocean. Will somebody like to make an offer?
And Mr. Chairman, before we do that, I should note for the public that the resolution, as the other 2 that are going to come up, are up on the board. We normally would ask if anybody in the public would like to have it read verbatim, which almost never is requested. But you can ask that.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Sure.
Good. I haven't.
And Mr. Brown, you want to make it clear what the resolutions are? It's not the ordinance, it's the resolutions for
Yes,
that are
these
being
only
memorialized.
resolutions. Was anybody here at the Elbaum hearing? If you were not at the Elbaum hearing, I suggest that you really have no interest in having it read. This is a very technical resolution. It was granting minor site plan approval. I can tell you in summary, it has standard language that we always have in every resolution that we pass. It sets forth the facts that were discussed. It, in large part, relies upon the report by our planner, James Higgins. In essence, this was a pre-existing site that has been there for decades. There was some discussion about landscape planning. The board found that the minor site plan approval can be granted subject to conditions because that it was consistent with our standards and the benefits substantially outweighed any possible detriments. The board found that the application was in fact in order, and it was passed, subject to the applicant complying with the comments of the board engineer's report of October 12, 2017. The applicant installing a curb landscaped area in the northwest corner of the site where the 2 existing parking spots are being removed, which area is to be planted with low growing vegetation in order to maintain the site triangle. The applicant shall maintain all the landscaping subject to the within approval in good health condition, but will not be required to sprinkle the area in light of the unique layout of the property. The other conditions were what we require in a very standard form for every application that is passed by this board. Mr. Chairman.
So, may I have a motion?
Make a motion?
Mr. Ochara?
Yes.
Dr. Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
And Chairman Borelli?
Yes. Okay, secondly, we have a memorialization of a resolution. Can you say something? No. Tara M. Scuderio, Block 140, Lot 65.03, 1 Dorset Court. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Ochara?
Yes.
Dr. Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
And Chairman Borelli?
Yes. Lastly, we have a resolution to be memorialized. Silmar Oliviera, Block 22, Lot 46, 243 Overbrook Avenue, Ocean, New Jersey. Would someone make a motion, please?
Make a motion?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Ochara?
Yes.
Dr. Di Benedetto?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
And Chairman Borelli?
Yes. Okay, that concludes the memorialization of the resolutions we have on the agenda tonight. And now we're at the section where we're going to do the administrative review of ordinance number 2303. Mr. Brown, who is the planning board attorney, is going to give a little synopsis of the procedure at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Acera is going to recuse himself.
Yep, if I can just make a comment or two. On the recommendation of the township attorney, I am going to recuse myself. There is a potential conflict of interest based on the application, based on this ordinance, and a potential application. I do want to comment, glad to see that the room is full. It's important that the community comes out and in a transparent form of government be able to speak and see what's going on and have their voices heard. This is a clear demonstration of that. I would encourage you to get your questions answered from the professionals that are here or from the members of the town council or the township officials. I would respectfully ask you not to necessarily believe everything that's on social media, but take the advice of the people that are here that have done this for many, many years, that are professionals at doing it, and get your questions asked specifically. All of our phone numbers are listed. Most of our phone numbers are listed on our websites. So please feel free to reach out to us, get the questions that you need answered if they're not answered tonight. This process, somebody asked me where we're at in the process. Is the bullet halfway in the chamber yet? My answer was no, the gun is not even out of the holster yet. So this is just a first piece of a long process in order to make anything happen at that site. So again, I respectfully recuse myself from the conversation.
Very good, and for the record, Mr. Acera is leaving from the dais, and I understand he's probably leaving for the evening.
You don't let me, I can't stay, correct?
You could stay in the back.
Can I?
Sure.
I'm going to stick around. Okay.
Way in the back.
Way in the back.
Yeah.
If there's any
Yeah, way in the back, if there's a seat.
There's one right up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate the number of people who are here this evening. As Mr. Acera said, on behalf of the council, basically, this is a multi-tiered process. But what I'd like to highlight is what this is about and what it is not. So first of all, those of you who may have been to planning board meetings before or have heard about planning board meetings, we usually have hearings. And so, for example, those resolutions that we memorialized tonight, they were subjects of public hearings. which means that the applicant appeared, presented his, her, or their case. Then there was a right of cross-examination by good folks like you. There was an opportunity for anybody who had concerns to, on their own or through experts, to present their position in support or in opposition. And then as a result of that process, the board deliberated, and then there were findings of fact and conclusions of law leading to the final process, which you saw and heard tonight, which was a resolution and memorialization. That is not what this is about tonight. As our chairman has already indicated, this is the only matter on the docket. There are no hearings tonight, and there are no presentations, which would be part of this process tonight. To help everybody understand the very narrow parameters of this, if you will bear with me, I'm going to read the actual statute. I hope you don't know this statute. It's boring. It's NJSA 40:55D 26A. And it reads as follows. Referral powers. Prior to the adoption of a development regulation revision or amendment thereto, the planning board shall make and transmit to the governing body within 35 days after referral a report including identification of any provisions in the proposed development regulation revision or amendment which are inconsistent with the master plan and recommendations concerning these inconsistencies and any other matters as the board deems appropriate. So with that as at least a starting point to focus in on the very narrow issue, which is pragmatically a yes or no answer. What we normally do, and I'll go back to the chairman, but we would now in the normal course listen to our planner. Back to the chairman.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, then we have a report which has been submitted by James W. Higgins and Associates, and the representative of his firm is here, Allison Coffin. I'm going to ask her if she could read the report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not even sure if everybody on the board here, because we have some new members and some veterans, but I would suggest that we have this young lady introduce herself, especially for the public, so that we all have context here. As you noted, this was prepared by James Higgins, who has been our planner for many decades, actually, yes. And we rely on him for very good reason. And with that.
Hi, my name's Allison Coffin. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I also bear a certification from the American Institute of Certified Planners. I've had that license and that certification for 14 years now. I've been employed by Mr. Higgins for 17 years now, although I have been working for him for free for quite a bit longer because he's my father. I'm very familiar with Ocean Township. I graduated from the high school here. Spent most of my adult life living in the township. In the time that I've worked for my father, I've been accepted as an expert witness in the field of planning for more than 80 communities throughout the state, primarily Monmouth, Ocean, and Middlesex counties. I have not appeared here previously in my father's place, mainly because he likes to keep Ocean for himself, but he was not able to be here tonight. So I will be filling the role of Mr. Higgins tonight. If the board likes, I can go through the memo that he wrote, skipping through some of the less relevant passages in the interest of time. As Mr. Brown summarized, what we're here for is to review the master plan and ordinance amendments as proposed under section 4055D 26A of the Municipal Land Use Law, which gives the planning board authority to review ordinance amendments and make recommendations to the governing body. And on November 9th of this year, the governing body introduced ordinance 2303, which amended Chapter 21, the Comprehensive Land Development Ordinance of the Township of Ocean, rewriting section 2138B in its entirety from C6 Community Mixed Use District to the C7 Community Mixed Use District. And pursuant to section 40:55D 26A, the responsibility of the planning board is to determine whether ordinance 2303 had any consistencies with the master plan and whether there are any other matters it deems appropriate. The report must then be transmitted to the governing body within 35 days, 5 weeks, or by December 14th in this instance. If the report is not transmitted within 35 days, there is no longer a requirement for the planning board review and the ordinance can be adopted without such review. The area that's subject to the rezoning consists of approximately 28 acres that are isolated from surrounding commercial and residential uses. More specifically, the site is bordered by wetlands and floodplains to the north, the municipal library, historical society, and human services complex to the east, Deal Road, open space, and the rear of residential properties across Deal Road to the south, and commercial uses across Route 35, including 5 lanes of traffic and a barrier. Because of this isolation, the site is unique in the township. The site is currently vacant and wooded. Because of the uniqueness of this area, it has significant history with regard to master plan designation, zoning, and rezoning. Up until 1987, the front of the site was zoned C2 and the rear of the site was zoned R1. Front, for the purposes of this discussion, is the Route 35 frontage. In 1987, the front of the site was zoned O2, which is different than the current O180 zone and required minimum 3 acres. The current O180 zone requires minimum 2-acre lots. The rear of the site was zoned R1T, which was a transitional zone that required 40,000 square foot single-family residential lots. In 1992, the ordinance was completely rewritten to be consistent with the 1990 master plan. The zoning of the front portion, the Route 35 frontage, of this area was changed to O180, which permitted office uses on 2-acre lots and accessory retail uses in a very limited scale. The rear of the area, including the municipal library site, remained R1T, which would have permitted approximately 40 residences. In November 2000, the master plan was amended and the area was designated to include an overlay zone, which provided for intensive commercial use on the entire portion of the area currently under consideration for rezoning in Ordinance 2303. The master plan recommended that the underlying zoning remain in place, which included office on the Route 35 frontage and residential uses on the eastern portion of the area. Uses permitted in the CDO overlay zone included all permitted uses in the C2 zone. Because this is an overlay zone, it was permissible to require a far side jug handle and bypass ramp on the north side of the intersection of Deal Road and Route 35, since there was an underlying zoning that would permit development of the site if NJDOT would not permit that bypass or jug handle. In 2005, the zoning was changed to create the C6 zone, which removed the underlying zoning and the overlay zone and permitted commercial development with up to 100 senior apartments above the commercial uses, including any uses permitted in the C2 zone. This rezoning required a jug handle and a bypass lane, which, if they could not be provided, would prohibit development of the site if NJOT would not allow that jug handle and bypass unless variances were granted. There was no corresponding master plan amendment since the planning board determined at that time the zoning was consistent with the intent and purpose of the master plan. So the C6 zone is the current zoning that's in place for this area. And the uses that are permitted in that zone include a variety of neighborhood and retail services, some community retail, some office, which is limited to a maximum of 40% of the total square footage of the development, and residential uses with a maximum of 100 age-restricted multifamily units on the above the first floor. Based on this, it's clear that the master plan and zoning history of the area of the subject site, subject to Ordinance 2303, both in terms of both the master plan and the zoning ordinance, recognizes that this area is unique and intends for intensive commercial development and associated residential development of the area. It should be noted that the 1990 master plan had an extensive community facilities plan, which includes extensive provisions for acquisition of lands for conservation and open space. The subject area is not and never has been designated for acquisition for either open space or recreation. It should also be noted that the November 2000 Master Plan Amendment specifically looked at this parcel and area to the immediate east of the parcel and recommended that the area to the east of the northerly extension of Logan Road could be utilized for community facilities, recreation, and/or open space. No such recommendation was made for the area to the west of the northerly extension of Logan Road. The reason for this is that the area is the last remaining large undeveloped area that's developable along Route 35. And the planning board and governing body both have felt that it would best serve the township if this parcel were developed for a mix of commercial uses along with the potential for residential uses. The proposed ordinance, 2303, provides for commercial uses on the western portion of the area and residential uses in the form of either townhouses or single-family residential on the eastern portion of the area. In my opinion, based on the master plan treatment, past actions of the planning board, past zoning of the site, and the unique character of the site, proposed ordinance 2303 is consistent substantially with the intent and purpose of the master plan as it relates to the future development of this site.
Other considerations?
Yes. We did note one potential change for the ordinance. In doing the detailed review of the ordinance, it was recognized that while the rezoning request has received extensive public scrutiny, the location of the site is well known to the public. The ordinance, however, does not specifically identify the block and lot that is to be rezoned. It's our recommendation that the planning board recommend a minor change to the proposed ordinance, which would introduce language defining the block and lot as Block 33 and Lot 19 to be rezoned from C6 to C7 Community Mixed Use District.
That's very good. Go right ahead.
Thanks, sorry. 2012 Hyundai four-door white Genesis and Foster GMC Acadia.
Okay, thank you, sir. Do any of the board members have any questions for the planner?
Yes, I do.
Go right ahead, John.
Sure. I just, in reading the ordinance, I just had a couple clarifications that I'd like to have. In the permitted principal uses, I don't even know what page this is. It's where it lists all the details. 456B1, and then there's an A, B, C, D. And I'm looking at the D, the retail portion of it.
Yes.
It mentions private school. Can you just define that a little bit better for me, please?
I don't have the definition in front of me, but I know that the township defines private school differently than many other ordinances, and under the definition of private school would include things like a dance school or a martial arts academy.
Okay.
So I think the intent is to allow for that type of use.
Okay. And then my other question that I had was, continuing along the ordinance, let's see, it'd be 2CD, so the next page actually, general development standards. The minimum lot frontage along Deal Road for the commercial portion of the tract is 300 feet, and the minimum lot frontage for the Route 35 is 500 feet. That seems very short to me. Is that in fact the case?
That I don't know, but I can double check that.
Okay. Those are my two questions.
Okay, John. John raised an interesting point. I have to ask the question, so private school would not mean anything of a religious nature?
I'm not 100% sure. I need to double check the definition of private school.
Mr. Chairman, if there's any question about that, if you are inclined to vote on this tonight, which you have to if you want to get it back in line, you could add that as a comment to the council and ask for clarification.
Okay,
Or express any concern that you might collectively have.
thank you.
I think a better definition would be
Yes.
helpful.
Yes, I think something that separates what the public perceives of as a private school
Correct.
from the way it's defined in the ordinance to include what is more recreational education.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anyone else on the board have a comment or a question for the planner? No? All right, at this point, would you like to, Mr. Brown, make a comment regarding public comments?
Okay, and Mr. Chairman, I thought you might ask me this. So, as I indicated in the beginning, the task here is extremely narrow. You heard our planner tonight use what might be called buzzwords in her profession, and that focuses in on the one question. And as she said, it was actually it's the collective opinion of Mr. Higgins and his firm that the proposed ordinance is, quote, consistent with the intent and purpose of the master plan. In terms of our narrow focus tonight, the only thing we can and must discern is that question. So, if you go along with the recommendation of our planner, the answer is yes. To help especially the public out, the statute requires that every zoning ordinance must either be substantially consistent with the land use plan element and the housing plan element of the master plan, as indicated by our planner, or designed to effectuate such plan element. Now, I focus again on the narrow focus to answer the chairman's question, because I indicated in the debate this is not a public hearing, and it is not. This is all there is. Unfortunately, maybe for some folks who would like to indicate what their feelings are. Now, I would point. No, excuse me, sit down, you're not recognized, sorry about that. No, you're not recognized, we're not gonna do this. No, we're not gonna, sit down, please. I see you at meetings, you're a great guy, please let me speak. Now, where is our councilman? All right, Mr. Chair back there is bold enough to stay here. I would suggest that after the meeting, if he still would like to stay, you can talk to him based on his comments. However, for those of you who do attend planning board meetings, you know that experts, including the board attorney, sometimes. No, you're not recognized. Please sit down. Please sit down. Nope. No, that's not true. Sit down, please. Please sit down. Please sit down. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I do have the.
Jackie, who told you?
Mr. Kirk,
Well,
No.
this was a misnomer.
you phoned me right before Thanksgiving.
Please sit down.
So, no, please.
Because I am speaking now. You can't interrupt
But
me.
you just told us.
Would you please be a nice person and let me speak? Okay.
Can someone get Mr. Kirk on the phone?
Mr. Kirk is right here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay? He's right here.
Kirk,
No,
we had a
no, we're not going to talk at this time. I am going to please answer the chairman's question. There is a question sometimes about whether comments are required. Absolutely not. The statute is very clear, according to Cox, our guiding Bible, which those of you who don't come here all the time, this is what the Cox treatise is. The deliberations just have to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act. Now, if a board decides to only vote, then public participation is clearly open for anybody to speak on concerns raised by the proposed ordinance, since when the matter is returned to the governing body with the board's recommendation, all members of the public may participate in the hearing wherein the governing body makes a final decision. And the reason why Cox says that is because, for good or bad, our role here is extremely limited. Whether any of the members of the board like it, dislike it, it is completely irrelevant. It's only whether or not you agree with our planner's recommendation. And I do know, and the reason why I was trying to diplomatically suggest that the folks listen to me is that you have your opportunity at the council. Unfortunately, I do understand that there may have been some comments at other meetings, but they weren't by this planning board. And, sir, you're not being recognized. Please sit down.
I have a question about the
No.
master plan.
No,
I
please
read,
sit
I read
down.
the master plan. Are we here
I-
to talk about the master? Do
No.
you guys want to hear
Please
from us
sit
or
down.
no?
Would you sit down, please? I'm going to finish, and then I'm going to go back to this
I've
chairman.
listened to isolated stuff. My house is
No.
bordering this.
Mr. Chairman, you can
This is
take
not
over now.
correct. You guys should listen to us. We're the residents.
Take over, Mr. Chairman.
You should listen to us.
Sir,
I have very intellectual
Sir.
Sit
questions.
down,
can I ask you a
please.
question?
And if you don't sit
You've been
down,
to the last,
we will ask the police officer to have you sit down.
We don't sit down, so why don't you tell us what's.
Can I speak to this gentleman, please? Jackie, I'm going to talk to this fellow, okay? I want to talk to this fellow. Your name, sir?
My name's Dan Kasalik. I live at 1620 Melville. I respect this board and you gentlemen. And I researched this, the
Mr.
master
Chairman,
plan and
are you-
everything
wait.
else.
No,
I'm not
I'm not
gonna
going to
yell-
let you speak yet.
I'm not going
Mr.
to yell and
Chairman,
scream emotionally. I'm just...
The question is, what is your determination?
My determination is there will be no questions tonight. Your opportunity will come when you can go to the town council because they are going to be the ones. If we do say this is in compliance with the master plan, they will be the ones that they will either pass it or deny it. We have no authority to pass this or deny this as far as making it law. That is up to the town council, and you know that.
Well, first
Right?
of all, I've been to the council meetings and they told us when they had the planning board meeting to come to the planning board meeting.
Mr. Chairman.
Well,
That's been told to us numerous
no, I'm
times.
sure it has.
And I've
Mr.
researched.
Chairman.
I've researched this.
I'm sure it has, but I'm not, but
This
Dan.
is not right.
But Dan, that might be true. I'm not responsible for what the town council said to you.
Right, but you guys are just going to pass what she says because she's an expert witness, right? But she's saying stuff like isolated.
Mr. Chairman, do you
I
want this
could hit
open
the
up to
property with a
public comment
pumpkin.
or not?
Like
Mr.
it's
Chairman?
right next to my house. There are other
We're going to have to
properties
proceed, Dan, but I would like to speak with you privately another time, if you would like.
privately.
Well, I'm giving you that opportunity, but you know what? I can't talk to you about this. We can't talk to you. There's going to be no commentary tonight because we do not have anything to do with passing the ordinance.
Mr. Chairman,
This is not.
is that your decision?
That's my decision.
I ask you to call for a vote.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, I'm going to call for a vote for a resolution to memorialize that the ordinance is substantially consistent with the land use plan element of the master plan.
This is funny. This is actually funny, guys. This is comical. This is unbelievable. There have been streets built since you guys did the master plan in 2000. Do you understand that? They don't understand.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, what you're under
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
being misinformed.
First of all, we have to have control of this meeting regardless of the good intentions of these folks here.
Counselor, would you like
Mr.
to-
Achara,
Counselor.
Mr. Achara just indicated that he would be happy after the meeting to talk to anybody about the issues. He also wanted to highlight that in this process, once a determination is made or not tonight, then it goes back to the council. That is the structure. There will be a hearing on the proposed ordinance at that time where people will have their opportunity, their democratic opportunity. It is not tonight. Mr. Achara highlights which is part of the process, that this is not an application. If, in fact, the developer decides, based on whatever might or might not happen with this ordinance, to proceed, if it does come back to the planning board, then it becomes an application. Then that is when good folks in the township will have a substantive right to have all their reasonable thoughts considered.
After
but
they
not
changed the
tonight.
zone. And why wasn't I notified? I
Mr.
bought
Chairman,
this property.
again, if you've decided that there's no public comment, then you can have a vote.
Mr. Arbus just.
We're going to vote, Dan.
Mr. Arbus just argued a case in Lakewood where they didn't notify the residents of a change in zoning, and he won. Mr. Arbus won.
Chairman, I'd like to make a.
That's your own attorney.
We're going,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a positive resolution.
Yes, you are out of order.
With the questions that I had asked, with some better definitions in the
Correct.
in the ordinance.
okay.
Why would
Can I have a
we
second,
have
please?
And then told I can't speak. All these people have made.
Okay, Jackie, we're voting now.
Voting on what? You're not
there a
informed
vote?
on the issues you're taking.
What is the,
Mr.
what
Higgins'
is-
daughters.
You are out of order, ma'am. Please sit down. Sit down.
Why don't you get the cop to remove it?
Yes,
Arrest me
we can
for
do
this.
that.
I wanted
Yeah,
to
get
be
the cop.
an
Mr.
expert.
Chairman,
Get the
do we have a vote or
Get the
not?
cop to
We have a
drag the
vote.
president out.
Can we roll call, please, Rachel?
Go ahead.
Roll call.
Mr. Brody?
You're not being honorable.
I'm not being honorable. Get the cop to drag her out.
I don't think you should vote until we can see the master plan and we can all look at the master plan.
The mayor told us to come here
Yes, he
tonight
did.
to express our views.
I know that.
You guys are not.
Mr. Chairman,
He didn't tell me.
pending or not.
Right. Well, it's unfortunate.
Mr. Duffy, what is your motion?
I'd like to make a positive resolution with the changes or definitions that I had asked to
So would
be
you would
changed.
like to have the report sent to the council for deliberation with the comments and also your comment with regards to clarification for the private school?
Yes, please.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
What's going on? You're all approving this plan right now?
Mr. Brody?
Yes.
You're all
Dr.
approving
Benedetto?
this development right now?
Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yes.
And Chairman Borelli?
Yes.
Any more business tonight, Mr. Chairman?
That concludes the business for the evening. I'd like
to
to
make-
ask for a motion to end the meeting, please.
I'd like to make a motion to end the meeting.
I'll second.
I second.
Are we calling roll call on it? Mr. Brody?
They don't.
Come on. Say yes.
Yes.
Dr. Benedetto? Mr. Duffy?
Yes.
Mr. Levy?
Yes.
Mr. Weinstein?
Yes.
Chairman Borelli?
Yes.
They don't.
Concludes the meeting. Thank you.